We're going to start here in 2017 when discussing the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. I do not have a GPP winning lineup for 2017. I think I probably started recording them in 2019. So what I have instead is an optimal lineup and then a secondary lineup. Just to give you another, idea of how to build lineups. So in 2017, your optimal was Jordan Spieth at 11-4, Daniel Berger. This was their playoff that they had, the epic playoff. Berger was 91, Hoffman 73, Danny Lee 68. Bradley, we talked about in the course and tournament information, this being a Northeast golf course. Keegan Bradley does well in the Northeast of the United States. And then we have a $7,800 Kevin Streelman, who I also talked about in the course information, or the course and tournament information, because Kevin Streelman likes putting on bent grass greens. So this equaled 49,700. And just to kind of go over it again, that's a 10K, a 9K, 3 7Ks, and a 6K. Building the optimal lineup this week, or in 2017, I mean. Now, I mention that because what I usually advocate for is starting with a 10K golfer, then a 9, then an 8, then 2 7Ks, and then a 6K. And I usually reference that as a 10-9-8, 7-7-6 start. Now, you can make substitutions from there, but I think it's always smart to start there because we see at least 25% of our lineups that are either GPP winning lineups or optimal lineups starting with a 10-9-8-7 start. It breaks down a little bit, but it's either 10-9-8, 7-7-6, or it's 10-9-8, 7-7-7, or it's 10-9-8, 7-6-6. Those 3 different salary combinations account for 25% of optimal winning lineups. I think it's actually like 18% of optimal winning lineups and 25 to 27% of GPP winning lineups. So why not start there? Because everything else from there kind of breaks down to being less than 6%, less than 5%, less than 4%. Now, obviously, you can create whatever lineup you want with whatever salaries you want, but outside of 1 year or one tournament, by the way, dating back to 2017, we haven't ever seen 4 8K golfers in the optimal lineup, except for one time. Furthermore, we really haven't seen 3 9K golfers plus, like 3 7Ks. We've seen that one time as well. But it's always kind of, it's more important to start with a 10-9-8 or a 10-9-7-7-7, something like that. So don't shy away, because this, again, 27, we'll go through more of these years. I apologize for not keeping this till the end, but you're going to see starting this way is a very optimal way of starting. Your secondary lineup in 2017 had a 9K, a 9K, a 9K. So I told you it doesn't really happen. This is the secondary lineups, not the optimal. 3 9s, a 7, and 2 6s. That equals 49,300. That's pretty difficult to get to. But if you see that, don't be afraid to play it. In 2018, I did not have a secondary lineup, but I do have an optimal lineup. And this starts with a 9K, 3 8Ks, and then 2 7s. So very balanced, 49,200. That's very difficult to leave $800 on the table and get it right. But I'm going to eat my words a little bit here. That's a 9K with 3 8Ks. That also rarely ever happens. And our nearest 10K golfer finished 12th place, which isn't terrible, honestly. Could you win a GPP with this guy down here? Maybe. Especially with how, what am I trying to say here? How soft the pricing is up at the top here. I don't think that's the right word I'm looking for. But I guess, no, you probably wouldn't win a GPP because you would need an $8,800 and $9,600. So I'll eat my words. Let's move on to the next year. Because I don't have a secondary lineup, nor do I have a GPP winning lineup. There we go. 2019, I do have a GPP winning lineup. I also have a sweet spot optimal lineup because the optimal left a lot of money on the table. Left nearly $4,000 on the table. It actually left $4,100 on the table. So this optimal lineup started with an $8,400 golfer, 77, 62, 67, 95, 74. Just to put it in a different order, that's a 95, 84, 77, 75, 67, 62. That's pretty difficult to get to. I don't, it wasn't 75, but it was 74. My apologies. I wouldn't advocate for that type of build. Don't leave that much money on the table. That's difficult to do. I'm going to talk about the Sweet Spot Optimal, and then we can talk about the GPP here. Sweet Spot Optimal is basically trying to include all 6 golfers inside the top 10. And that one goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. So you could either go with this 6K golfer or this 6K golfer. It would have all worked out the same. There you go. The 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 build is prevalent in 2019. Your GPP winning lineup left $600 on the table, and believe it or not, had all 6 golfers inside the top 8. That's remarkable. That's crazy. And that also started with the 10K golfer, 9K golfer, 8, 7, 7, 6. It's all these golfers that are highlighted blue. So there you go again, once again, 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. So that was 2019. 2020. This was the 3rd event after the COVID shutdown. Things were a little different. I almost, like every time I go over this, I almost don't want to include it because it was such a weird year. Lots of weirdness, especially with salaries. People were coming back from this big break. How does DraftKings construct their salaries? It's a little shaky. Your optimal left $8,100 on the table. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't it doesn't make any sense. But you had a $9,400 Dustin Johnson, a 7K Kevin Streelman, 6K, 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 4 6K golfers. That's what gets you your optimal lineup. No, don't do that, guys and girls. Don't do that. That's not smart. It's just not good. Your Millie Maker winning lineup. We had a Millie Maker, believe it or not, and I think they did like 3 weeks in a row with the Millie Maker. They wanted to catch up with all their golf. That started with an $11,000 golfer in Bryson DeChambeau, $9,400 Dustin Johnson. Have these all colored differently. $9,800 Patrick Cantlay. Then it was 1 6K, 2 6Ks, 3 6Ks. So that's very stars and scrubs. 11K, 2 9Ks, and 3 6Ks. That's insane. It looks like I created a Sweet Spot Optimal, but for whatever reason, I did not copy it over or didn't create like a little thing here. It's all these golfers here in green. It equals 49,800. Okay. So let's see here. Actually, let me do this. Makes life easier. 49,800, and then let me also put down the points. Let's add it up. So actually, let me tell you what the salary is. 11,000, 9,000, 9,000, 2 7Ks, and a 6K. So it's basically starting with a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6, and then we're making one substitution. We're bringing the 8K up to another 9 because we can afford it. So that's why we get 2 9Ks. The point total here is 669, which is nice. 669 scores more points than the Millie Maker lineup. That scores 656. So yeah, going with the Sweet Spot Optimal would have been your best bet. And again, that starts with a 10, 9, 9, 7, 7, 6. Going to 2021, we have an optimal and a $3 GPP winning lineup. The optimal left $700 on the table, and it included most of the guys here on the top of the leaderboard. Looks like you could interchange Brooks Koepka with Bryce Garnett because they scored the same amount of points. Kind of interesting. But again, this left $700 on the table. Start with a 10K golfer, a 9K, an 8K, an 8K, and then 2 6s. That's very interesting. I make the argument, or not so much argument, but I usually provide rules to this thing. Start with a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6, and you can make up to 2 substitutions. So how I look at this is, okay, we have a 10K golfer, right? Perfect. Check mark. We have a 9K golfer. Check. but we have two 8Ks. Okay, that's interesting. How do we get to two 8Ks? Well, we can sub one of our 7Ks up to an 8K. Perfect. So that's how now we have two 8Ks. Then we should drop down to a 7K, but we don't have a 7K. We actually have two 6s, which is fine because then our second substitution is dropping that last 7K down to another 6. So there you go. You had a 10, 9, 8, 8, 6, 6 with your optimal. Your GPP winning lineup started with a 10K golfer down here with Patrick Reed. Then it went to a $9,100 Abe Answer, $8,200 Harris English, $8,800 Brian Harmon, a $7,200 Guido Migliozzi, and then a $6,700 Hank Lebioda. It left $0 on the table. Obviously, when we were grabbing Patrick Reed down here, finished 25th place, there was definitely opportunity to take down a GPP because this is a weaker GPP winning lineup. So if you would have started with Brooks, I mean, it kind of looks, yeah, the optimal lineup would have been your best bet, but you could have went like something Brooks, Harris English at 82, Abe at 91. We could also probably bring in Brian. Yeah, we could do the same lineup without Mark Leishman. So 10, 9, 8, 8, 6, 6. And this actually gets you $50,000 on the button. So you could interchange Harmon with Leishman. That's a $700 difference, and that's $49,300 to $50,000. So that was 2021, and then in 2022, I do have an optimal, I have a GPP, and then I have a sweet spot optimal because our optimal left a lot of money on the table. $3,700. That's impossible. Like it's difficult to do. But the optimal did start with the 10K golfer, a 7, 3 6s, and then another 10K golfer. So just to repeat that, that's two 10K golfers, 1 7 and 3 6s. That's nearly impossible to do. Don't try it. Don't try it at home, folks. Don't do it. Your GPP winning lineup left $100 on the table, and it started with a 10K golfer. Actually, again, it started with two 10K golfers, Xander and Patrick, best friends. $7,300 Seth Theegala, $8,200 Keith Mitchell, and then two 7K golfers down here in Matthew Neesmith and Adam Long. Just to say that differently, that is two 10Ks, an 8K, and three 7Ks. So if you think about the two substitutions, you can still do that, right? So we go a 10, a 10. It's like, okay, well, I guess we sub one of our 9s up to a 10. So that's one substitution. And then we do have our 8K golfer and Keith Mitchell, so we don't have to make any substitutions there. And then we have our two 7K golfers down here. So there we go. We only made one substitution. We should have another 6K golfer, right? No, we have a 7K golfer. Well, we can make up to two substitutions. So there we go. Our 6K goes up to a 7. Our 9K goes up to a 10. And therefore, we have a 10, 10, 8, 7, 7, 7. Simple enough. I always like to look, does the sweet spot optimal beat the GPP winning lineup? This scored 664. The GPP scored 604. So yeah, it annihilated it. And it was only like 17 points behind the optimal. So I do believe starting 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 is going to be your best bet this week, especially when we have such a... there are a lot of golfers in the 10K range, and I'll cover that in the bucket system portion of the preview video. Well, let me just show you. I guess I can just show you here. So 2023, we have 5 10K golfers. They're all pretty spectacular. So I don't see... Personally, I'm not going to shy away from using the 10K range. I think I'll use it 100%. There will be a golfer from the 10K range in every single one of my lineups. And I would almost make the argument the same thing with the 9K range. A lot of good golfers here. We'll see. I mean, tomorrow in the strategy video, again, I go live at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll be building lineups and seeing how well everything meshes together with the buckets, with the salaries and stuff like that, to see if we can start 10-9 or if we start 10-8. We'll see how it goes. But again, I'll be building lineups tomorrow in the live video. So that covers your pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. Again, starting with a 10K seems pretty standard, up to par, and then going from there. Having some 7K golfers in your lineup is probably going to be beneficial, and also maybe up to 2 6K golfers. We'll see. Again, I'll do more of a deep dive in that at the bucket system at the end of the preview video, as well as in the strategy video tomorrow.